Welcome back, family. Today we're going back into the rental crisis scenario that we have here in Accra, and we've got an update following on from a previous video that we've done. So let's get straight into it. I did a previous video on this where it was a combination of the rent control department and other departments discussing the issues around the charging of upfront rents over 6 months, which is the legal maximum. And that is ultimately driven by the demand in the lower income and middle income sectors. So people are securing properties for longer periods. There's risk on both sides, risk on the landlord side in terms of tenant quality, risk on the renter side in terms of being able to actually acquire a property. So there's been an update. Now, this video that we're going to talk through comes through the Home Buyers Show, which is hosted by Hannah Tiasie, a very experienced real estate professional in Ghana. So check out the show in general. Very informative. So let's get into it. We have Mr. Opoku, who has returned to provide an update on what interventions are being developed. We'll talk through those. Hopefully there's going to be some really good progress that is beneficial to all key stakeholders in the industry. Let's get into it.
That my position has changed and that I have been called for national duty and that I really want people to see me differently. And I therefore formally introduce myself as the acting Red Commissioner of the Republic of Ghana. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, has finally invoked Section 2 of the Rent Act 220,
Yep.
which for the last 62 years,
62
we
years.
not had a commissioner.
Wow.
So the visionary president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, have seen the need that we need to sanitize the housing sector so that at least we can bring peace, harmony, and reconciliation between the landlords and tenants.
Okay, so a few key items that you can kind of see there. One, I'm really glad Mr. Opoku is the one who's being pushed forward to address the issue. In the last video that I did, his passion really did speak through, and I forget the other guy's name. The arguments around lacunas in the law and all those kind of things, for me, are just not good enough. It's an easy way out. So his passion and commitment to the cause is being rewarded now directly by the president to address the issues in the system. However, for a rent act to be in place for 62 years and not appoint a commissioner as part of the act itself for 62 years is terrible, right? It's not good. The fact that the reference law is 62 years old is also not good. So these kind of things are, you could take them as indicators for the real desire to actually accomplish good things. But the fact that they've now done this is a positive step forward. Let's see what tangible steps are going to be put in place to actually resolve current as is and move us towards a desire to be.
You know, when you come to the issues of rent and landlord issues, it's a bit chaotic. And the president, in his wisdom, and as part of his legacy building, has decided to bring a commissioner to drive his vision, ensuring that the rent law, which people have been crying that is not being enforced, trust me, is going to be enforced fully.
Wow.
Fully.
Wow.
As the commissioner, administrative head of the rent control today, I can assure the Ghanaian people that the perception of rent control, we will do our best to prove that it has changed. And it will change right under my tenure.
Wow.
I want to assure Ghanaians that His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, believes that there must be peace at home. After all, if he is not able to build for all, which is not possible, he will do what he can do at a point, trying to introduce or improve the supply. But he's saying that the law has to be implemented and implemented well. So I'm happy today to thank the president for seeing the need and reposing that confidence in me that Frederick Opoku today, having advocated for a decade and plus, is competent enough to take that responsibility. I've accepted it, and I want to state it clearly today that I want to be referred to as the Rent Commissioner acting of the Republic of Ghana.
And congratulations to you, Mr. Opoku, Mr. Commissioner. We can all see that his desire is in the right place. I saw it in the last video when I was watching, how he performed, and it's a real passion point for him. What I really want to understand is what are those steps that he wants to take, because to his words, the sector is chaotic and chaos is not sustainable.
However, I believe that we're going to have partnership with other associations,
Sure.
i.e., I'm praying that there should be a landlord national association, as we have the tenant association. Now I'm no more part of them. I've stepped down, and I want to take this platform as well to let Ghanaians know that I have stepped down publicly as Secretary General of the National Tenant Union of Ghana.
Wow.
This would enable me to be a father for all.
Before you get into details
Yes.
of what your
Yeah.
mandate is, I
Yeah.
want that to sink for a minute. He has just announced that the President of the Republic of Ghana has appointed him as the acting rent commissioner. This position has never been appointed in the history of this nation. For the
That is a disgrace. Look, it's good that it's appointed now, but it's never been appointed in the history of the nation, which shows where the priority lies or doesn't lie. Good. Positive step forward. We don't need to reflect on the past if it's not productive. Positive step forward, but it's never been appointed. That's an issue. We've got him appointed now. He's the right person with the right passion. Let's explore what the mandate means.
last 62 years, we have not had this position filled. So this is big news, and this is exciting news. But the next question is, what is your mandate as the acting rent commissioner?
Very well, thank you. Clearly, as been stated in the Rent Act, rent control as an entity has the responsibility of applying and ensuring that they can regulate the law and to ensure that people will follow what the law directs them to do. In simple terms, my responsibility is to ensure that I'm going to help apply the law.
Wow.
And to get it enforced. We needed a commissioner who would take the administrative role of rent control, meaning that rent control since have not had administrative head. And this is the first time they are having it. So I trust and believe that in simple terms, I am in to support and work as a team with my people, rent control team, to make sure that we will be able to do the needful. The needful of ensuring that everybody, landlord and tenant, will obey and respect the rules of the game. And that's it, yes.
Yeah, so what are...
The question is how? My only reflection right now is that some of the conversation centered around more associations, landlord association, creating one. More associations don't change behaviors, okay? Enforcement does, but enforcement shouldn't be a manual effort. I hope it's not going to be a manual effort. I don't know what he's going to say. Because enforcement and behavior change comes through the implementation and the application of technology. For example, take the whole Ghana card situation. The Ghana card situation was implemented, and I think, give the last government real credit for implementing that. And there was effectively a cut-off date to which, if you didn't register for your Ghana card your mobile phones wouldn't work. Your mobile phone had to be linked to your Ghana card. Now, with the kind of culture, the kind of carefree, some may say indiscipline, that we have in Ghanaian society, people didn't take heed originally. But when it came to the cutoff point and people could no longer use their phones, people lined up, wrapped around buildings, waited all day to get their Ghana card. Now everybody possesses a Ghana card. So it's the technology, it's the incentives, it's the incentives that make things work, right? So we've always had this law around minimum payment terms and those kind of things. When it comes to rent, we have had zero enforcement. Even when trying to enforce a conflict, the requirement for evidence is there of, okay, this person charged me. So, it suggested record the meeting that you're having with the landlord. And I don't know if that even aligns with data protection or data privacy laws in Ghana to record someone without their consent. You have to get the consent for them to say it, and then they won't say it. So I say all this to say it's good that we have some tone from the top around this is an important agenda. But how do you enable people and your teams to actually deliver outcomes that are required to improve the situation? That's my guiding question at the moment.
Top 3 things that you hope to sort of solve almost immediately, because the last time you were on, there were some certain issues that you talked about as the Secretary General of the National Tenants Union. So what are some of the top 3 things you have on your priority list that we could look forward to seeing being rectified in the rental market?
Yes, first and foremost, I believe that, and I also share the same, this thing with others, that the rent issues in this country is a bit worrying.
Yeah.
And for me, I think that I wouldn't want to say that it's intentional. People are ignorant about the law. In as much as I want to enforce the law to its, logical conclusion, it is important that from now, within now to about 5 months, intensive education, sensitization, so that before we can apply the law fully, no excuses that I didn't know. Landlords will know what they must do and what they shouldn't do, or they cannot do. Likewise, tenants must also do same. So what I'm trying to establish is that we are going to do intensive education and sensitization so that at least people will understand and know what offenses are there if you don't go by it. Hannah, number 2, the idea is to now completely ensure that we have a modern rent administration, not people joining queue. People have easy means of reporting. People would not be like as it used to be, that they have joint queue at rent control, having access digitally to report their cases and have response quickly as practicable. This is very important.
Well, this is very good, but do you have the resources? The last conversation, I think one of the reasons why rent control wasn't able to enforce based on the conversation was the lack of resources.
Before we get into that, so, Hannah asked what are the 3 priorities in your mandate or your 3 tactics. One's communication and education, which I think is important. You have to understand where your audience for that communication sits, how they receive messages, and how then you develop a messaging framework that lands and sequentially lands over time, so people are aware of the repercussions for non-adherence. Okay, let's put it like that. I'm really happy that he said the modernization and digitization of the overall process, but my observation is that the process itself needs transformation. Instead of registering cases, we should be alleviating the need to register a case, i.e., for example, i.e., for example, why don't you have a formalized way in which tenancy agreements are logged and registered? Proof of payment are logged and registered as part of every new tenancy agreement. And then when disputes come up, you register the dispute online, right? And therefore you have a database of transactions, which is going to be really helpful for people to understand market dynamics and those kind of things. We need it for sales, but we need it for rental as well. Rather than having a digitized method of registering a dispute, because effectively you then have a queue in processing it manually, unless you put an AI interface that can interpret, but you need to prompt it effectively, all of those kind of things. So I think it's a fundamental transformation of the actual process itself around landlord and tenant interaction and digitizing that process. You know, people don't like me to compare to UK or what have you, but it's what my exposure is. And it's what is there as a reference point of what works well. For example, when you register a deposit, you register deposit with a deposit scheme, which is a separate entity to the transaction. It's still quite manual in a way, to be fair. You issue a tenancy agreement signed, and then you're subject to laws which are changing now, where, you know, non-payment of 6 months is where you can then take people to court, which takes some period of time, etc. But there's also a system where landlords can advertise without the use of an agent. They advertise, and this is a private organization, by the way, and you can advertise your property, issue tenancy agreements, have them signed, payments taken, all online, right? That's a private organization. I have actually studied their process flow. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to Mr. Opoku and see what Kuro can build the team in terms of a modernized system that alleviates the need for people to be registering disputes in that way and reduces the amount of disputes in general, because people would have to adhere to certain guardrails built into a system. So if you are caught renting without a landlord license that can be administered from an assistant through a system, that's where repercussions happen. That's where behavior changes. It's in the incentives and in the process and in the system.
Ghana, one thing I can say is that the President of the Republic of Ghana, having sat and realized that rent control needs to be retooled, that's why he has brought a commissioner. And it is clear that the President will do everything, and I know he will do, to resource, with the support of my minister, Mr. Gilbert has also given the assurance that whatever support the commissioner needs to make it happen is going to support me fully. And honestly, I trust and I believe that my minister, Honorable Kenneth Ajay, before assuming this position, we have been very, very good friends as brothers. And I know my minister will not take me where I will not reach. So I can assure you and assure the public that President John Dramani Mahama and my minister will do the needful, ensure that we have the requisite resources to implement it, the work at rent control.
Wonderful.
I'm doing a video, I'm not sure if it'll be released yet. Actually, it won't be, I don't think so, about why Ghana rewards relationships over process. And this is kind of an example. The question was, you had challenges around resources. And the answer basically is, my relationships have reassured me that we'll have the resources. As opposed to, there's been a process change, which means there's budget allocation or resource allocation, or we're going to partner with external organizations to do this and then do this. That's my worry. Okay, this is not to be, I hope it doesn't come across as too critical, because I think everybody's trying their best. But things like these need systems that work. And if the law didn't have a rent commissioner appointed for the 62 years of the duration of the law, then the system of the law isn't working as well. If it's not being enforced and not being enforced widely, then it's not working as well. So what are the tangible next steps, and why are those steps being taken, is what I'm kind of looking for from this conversation. I don't think I've got it yet. But again, I think intent is important, but enabling intent with the correct resources, capability is more important. Because resources, capability, process design is what delivers the outcome. You know, motivation is nothing without discipline.
So what I love, which was going to be one of my questions, is the educational rollout. Yes. So how do you plan on doing that? Will you have different people educating them on a weekly, monthly basis? How are you going to educate landlords and tenants?
Good question.
It will come in phases. We're going to use the social media. I've asked them to create, now everybody is holding the phone. Yes, 24/7.
Yeah.
So we're going to have a lot of platforms, social media, all handles, that we will be doing short education and translate it in different languages that everybody can actually follow. Number two, we are going to, put ourselves together to have town hall meetings. Town hall meetings where we can engage the landlords. So meaning that we are going to have very deep engagements with landlords and tenants. It's very important. These are the two main, stakeholders.
Social media, I get it. But what needs to be taken into account is different social media platforms are used for different reasons, right? And broadcasting out a message is not a way to engage with people. Like, you can broadcast out a message, by all means do it. The town hall piece, yes, that's a way to engage with people. But if those are the only two channels, and I say this coming from a technology, change management, strategy background, if these are the only two channels, I question its effectiveness. Because how do you get the depth of penetration that you need into the landlord audience if it's a town hall that is optional, right? Ghana's a lot of traditional media, okay? So you could look at newspapers, billboards, TV stations, radio stations to get across a message around landlord requirements for renting in Ghana and how they are changing. And this is the deadline and the repercussions if you don't deliver against that deadline. That would be my just gut feelings looking at this first time and just kind of from my professional background. And that deadline will probably be tied to a launch of a new system or a new process, etc. And also a method to track and monitor adherence to the new system and the new process. So just having those two channels for me would be concerning. And the resources point is, if those are the only two channels, how much resources do you really have to deliver? Because if you have resources, then you can use the other channels and be effective as well. It's just my kind of professional opinion, being a consultant for 13 years and coming across a variety of public and private sector clients who have differing challenges where they're moving from a current situation to a desired situation.
That the commissioner and for that matter, the rent control need to work with. So I can assure you that we're going to have town hall meetings. We're going to use the social media, and we are also going to get the media, get people, talk to the media houses, collaborate with them for our offices across the country to be on radio stations.
Wonderful, good. Okay, so he's made that point, which is great, but it didn't come across originally. Okay, So I think there needs to be clarity around the messaging, the sequencing, and the channels, right? So you have a messaging framework for landlords, you have a messaging framework for renters, you have a messaging framework for people even issuing building permits, right? So if this is a story building with multiple apartments, have they applied for their landlord license, right? I'm not saying there is no landlord license, I'm saying that should be a thing. You know, for renters, I did a video a while ago around the credit scoring method. For the renters, have they registered with the credit score, the new credit scoring that's coming into play? Those kind of things. And then you can look at the channels to which you disseminate these messages through, right? Social media probably for renters, TV, radio for all, newspapers for all, those kind of things. And do you have the collateral surrounding you, you know, the design capability to do, you know, smart, kind of intuitive, engageable content, right? You need these different levers to pull towards an overall transformation and change.
Educate people about the do's and do not do's. That is where we can get everybody to understand what the law says and what it doesn't. All the time I have said that we cannot blame the landlords all the time. They may be ignorant. So this is the time that, as a commissioner, I will lead and ensure that the rent control will take charge. We are going to be proactive, not reactive. We are not going to be called that somebody did like this, what should be done. But we will set the conversation. We are going to set the housing agenda so that people can understand and know what they must do and what they should not do. Hannah, for example, if you visit Section 4 of the PNDC Law 138, 1986, it is stated clearly that when you lease a property, after that transaction between landlord and tenants, landlords have 14 days to register their leases and tenancy with the rent control.
And what is the consequence if they don't?
If you do not, we will make sure that we will invite you.
Wow.
That's why I wouldn't want to be so critical on what will happen to you. But
Right.
I am indicating that the law says that if you don't do it within 14 days,
Right.
in fact, we are going to set up rent tax force inspectors. I call them yellow.
Yellow.
Yes.
Folks,
They
get
are
ready for
going to
yellow.
visit houses
Right.
to inquire.
And it's funny.
To make sure that you have filed, you have registered, you have regularized your agreements. It is very important.
Right, so this is my problem. We are still talking about getting human hands to do the work of technology. Task force, in person. You can't scale that across the country. It takes physical resource, physical effort. Whereas you could put the same budget into a technology that scales across the country, right? It takes far less people. How many landlords even know that they have to regularize their leases after 14 days? How many actually even do it? You telling them that you have to do it versus actually doing it is a different story. Hannah Ross, what's the consequence if you don't do it? We'll invite them. What does that mean? You know, it needs to be formalized, because otherwise people don't know what the consequence is. It sounds like there isn't a real consequence. You'll be invited to come and speak to them and just finish the process. But then how do you track who has and hasn't done it without a technology? That's my thinking.
Many a time, people lose their property or their home because some of the laws that they even, put together, the tenancy agreement, is inhumane. And that it gives some landlords the opportunity to evict a tenant anytime they want to evict.
So will you have standardized tenancy agreements?
Exactly. That's one
Because
of the
otherwise we would run into...
It is 100%.
Okay.
We're going to standardize it. Online, you go there, you can download it everywhere you want to go.
And
Okay.
that is what everybody must
Exactly.
use.
If you register your tenancy and it's not like the standardized one, we will not accept it.
But this is for long-term tenancy. Now a lot of investors that are buying properties use it for short-term, Airbnb. So how are you going to deal with those type of tenant
Anything
situations?
Fantastic question. Now, my challenge at the moment is like, okay, good. That's good that you're going to have standardized tenancy. It's going to be online. When, how, who's delivering it? That's my question.
We classify as rents, whether 2, 3 days or 1 week. It's rent.
And so we'll use the standard form. Okay,
It's about having an agreement that you have to be here 1 week or 3 weeks. You are renting.
I guarantee you, Airbnb investors are not going to be issuing short-term tenancy agreements. They're not going to do it. The turnover's too quick. So if I've got a tenant in for 2 days and then a new one comes in for 3 days and then another one comes in for 5 days, I have to issue 3 separate tenancy agreements and have them sign, and it's not practical. I'm sorry, it's not practical.
Sure. So, folks, you heard it right here on the Homeowner Show. You have exactly 5 months. So you're giving them till June to say that you did not know. After June, it is believed that you do know. And then that is when the Rent Act will be enforced.
Force 100%. Now, as I indicated, those who know me
yes, Mr.
have seen my advocacy.
Yeah.
I would want to bring the same energies as rent control. That's why I have so much trust and belief that rent control would have the confidence that it requires. And anything that rent control have lost over the years, I want the Ghanaian people to have confidence in rent control. That Frederick Opoku, as a commissioner of rent control, trust me, it's going to work. And the rent law will work. Look, tenants, be happy. And let us all join hands, both landlords and tenants, to say a very big thank you to His Excellency, the President. This is what some of us were expecting over the years to have been done.
Right.
You cannot have a law that doesn't have a head. You cannot. And trust me.
Well, the rent control was there.
Yes, it was. But administratively, the law states clearly that the rent commissioner is the administrative head.
You know, we're a very legislative environment in Ghana. A lot of laws, very little enforcement. And you know what always shakes up laws is technology. Look how people have had to adjust and adapt to the fact that Airbnb came into play, and it shook up the entire housing stock in various high worth areas and cities, right? So then the laws had to adapt. Focusing on the law and what the law says over 62 years, and now appointing a commissioner, great. But in today's 62 years on, is there not revisions to the law that's required? 62 years on, is this the only method that we can take? I don't think so. But that's my opinion. And I really respect Mr. Opoku for his tenacity and drive towards the greater good and the outcome. I think he should be backed with the right resources and capability to enable it.
So there are certain things that somebody cannot do if he doesn't have legally the power to do. So as we speak, rent control is a department under the Ministry of Housing, and it's one of the agencies, right, of the ministry.
Right.
It means that as a commissioner, I now have a platform at the ministry level to be part of interactions, negotiations that can bring resources. I need to let the ministry also understand, when I have the chance to be there, that rent control needs A, B, or Z, and that you must provide. Rent control today are in 14 regions. We have 66 offices, which, as part of my vision, I want to see rent control everywhere in the district.
One
So
district,
that
one
you
rent
go,
control.
This is rent control. 66 is too minimal.
We have 16 regions.
66. 14 regions, 66 offices dotted across the country. My vision is to work with the team, the ministry, my sector minister, and other stakeholders, i.e.
So there's 4 or 5 per region, if my maths is right, could be wrong. That's clearly not enough. Having one per district, fine, great, that's good for or having an office per district, that's good for ensuring administration, but again, scalability of the outcome you want in terms of correct behaviors around tenancy agreements and all those kind of things. Even if you had the same 6 people per district, you know, a district could be 500,000 people. Yeah, a district could be about 500,000 people, or 300,000, 250,000. And if you have 5 people for those 250,000, you know, you got 1 for every 50,000. How you can't scale it. But if you have a technology as an interface to the departments, and you have automated alerts to say, okay, from this building permit department, there's a new building going up, or we can scan through all the building permits that have come up in the last 5 years or whatever, and we identify which are multi-use or mixed use or residential apartments, etc., or chamber and halls, and we have the owners of each of these. At least then they have a way to start, right? They have a pathway to begin the conversation. Right, we've got this list of people in this district. We need to make sure that they're aware of the revisions, not even revisions, there's no revisions. They're aware of the focus on the Rent Control Act, and there's a new requirement for landlords to register a landlord license. And do it for a fee, because people are making profit from being landlords. Do it for a fee, let it enter the coffers, let the department be a revenue generating one, you know? There's some ideas, you know, but again, I'm not in those positions, but I'm gonna make the phone call. I'm actually gonna make the phone call. Let's see.
MMDs. In fact, in the few months to come, I'm going to engage. One, the IGP, the police, for them to have a buy-in of the commissioner's vision and rent control vision going ahead, because you cannot do enforcement without the law enforcement agency.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because I've spoken for a long time. By and large, and maybe I'll continue this in another video. By and large, I'm very supportive of the energy towards rent control, not as a concept. I think rents should be in a free market. The control of administration of the laws and the rules, I don't think you can do it manually. I don't think it works with just more people and without the technology. If you're going to implement a technology, don't let it replace what is the manual process right now. Transform the process, transform the standards, implement the requirements, let people adhere to them. That will bring about the change. What do you think, guys? I'm going to leave it there for now. Is there any way else to fix the rent control problem? Or not even the rent control, the rental system? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.